Welcome to the deep dive. You're listening because, well, you know that feeling, right? You can understand English pretty well. You've got a decent grasp of the grammar, maybe.
Yeah.
But when it comes to actually speaking, it's like your brain just gets stuck, freezes.
Mm-hmm. The words are in there somewhere.
Yeah. And the rules, you kind of remember them, but getting them out smoothly, it feels like, I don't know, solving a puzzle while someone's watching you.
That's a spot so many English learners find themselves in. And often the real culprit is this habit we build up, mentally translating everything, from your native language into English, word by word.
Right. It seems logical at first, doesn't it? Especially when you're starting out.
It does, but it can actually become a huge roadblock. It stops you from sounding, well, fluent and natural.
Absolutely. And that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're going to unpack why that constant internal translation slows you down and often leads to really unnatural sounding English.
And more importantly, give you some practical ways to start bypassing it.
Yeah, actionable techniques to begin thinking directly in English. Our goal for this deep dive is really to give you strategies that will make speaking feel more automatic, more intuitive.
And ultimately much more fluent.
Yeah. And the materials we've looked at, they all point to this shift away from translation as being like the key.
Definitely. So let's get right into it. Why is this habit, translating in your head before speaking, why is it such a barrier?
Okay, let's break it down. The first really big issue is that English, well, like any language, it has its own way of doing things, its own structure.
Right. It's not just a code for your native language.
Exactly. Sentence structures are different. Idioms almost never translate directly.
Oh, definitely not.
And even simple everyday phrases can sound completely bizarre if you just swap the words.
And it's interesting, isn't it? You could translate something, and each word might be technically correct.
Yeah.
But the whole sentence just sounds off, unnatural, or even confusing to a native speaker.
Like those idioms you mentioned, raining cats and dogs. Try translating that literally.
Yeah, you'd get some very strange looks in most languages. It wouldn't mean heavy rain at all.
It's like trying to build IKEA furniture with instructions for, I don't know, a different bookshelf entirely.
Huh. Good analogy.
And then there's the speed issue, that constant mental back and forth, native language to English, then finally speaking.
What takes up so much brain power and time.
It's like your brain's running this extra mile just to say something simple.
Precisely. That added cognitive step, it's what causes those pauses, the ums, and we all do sometimes, but it becomes constant. It makes you feel like you're struggling, and it really disrupts the flow of a conversation, makes it hard to keep up.
Okay, so we're clear on why we need to ditch the translation habit. Now, the exciting part. How do we actually train our brains to think directly in English? Technique number one is, well, it sounds almost too simple. Start with single words.
Yeah, it's fundamental, though, really about rewiring things. So wherever you are right now, just look around, your room, your office, outside. Identify everyday objects and just silently say their English names to yourself. So if you see a bed, just think bed.
Not this is a bed or anything.
Just the word. Window, door, lamp, book or tree, car, sky, chair, table, cup, whatever's there.
It feels basic, maybe, but the power is in making that direct link, right? Object straight to English word. No middleman.
Exactly. You're cutting out your native language completely for that specific association.
And the key thing, as our sources pointed out, is doing it consistently, daily.
Absolutely crucial. Even just a few minutes scattered through the day, it builds new pathways in your brain, like a shortcut. Think about learning the alphabet as a kid. You didn't translate the letter A from something else. You just learned A is A.
Right. Direct link.
We want that same directness for common English words.
Okay, so once you're comfortable with the single words, technique number two builds on that, adding short, simple descriptions.
Exactly. So you move from just book to maybe red book or heavy book or book on the desk. If you see a car, not just car, but blue car or fast car or car parked outside.
So just adding one little detail, an adjective or maybe where it is.
That's the idea. We're not aiming for complex sentences here. Forget perfect grammar for now.
Right.
The goal is just getting used to forming these little thought chunks directly in English, quickly.
Like if you see a flower, think yellow flower. Or pretty flower, not just flower.
Or a cat sleeping, sleeping cat, gray cat, simple.
It builds momentum, right? Gets you used to basic English word order without even thinking about rules.
It really does. It's quite clever how it works. You start internalizing things like adjectives coming before nouns just by doing it, not by studying a rule book.
Okay, technique 3. This one shifts from objects around us to our own actions, thinking about what you are doing in English.
Yeah, this is where you start weaving English into your actual day, your routine. As you do things, try to mentally narrate them. Simple sentences.
Like if I'm making coffee.
Think, I am making coffee, or I am pouring water, I am adding milk, I am stirring.
Okay. Or getting dressed. I am putting on my shirt. I am tying my shoes.
Exactly that.
It might feel a bit strange at first, having that little voice in your head narrating.
A little, but it's incredibly effective. It trains your brain to process actions, verbs, what you're doing directly in English.
Moves beyond just labels for things.
Right, into activity. So opening a window. I am opening the window. Reading, I am reading a book. Walking, I am walking.
And you can do this anytime, anywhere, pretty much.
Yep.
Cooking, cleaning, commuting.
Loads of opportunities, just those little moments.
Okay, technique 4 is about speed. Answering immediately. This tackles that hesitation we talked about right at the start.
Yeah, this one directly fights that urge to translate when someone speaks to you, even for really simple, common questions like, how are you, or what's your name?
The goal is to respond instantly, without that mental detour.
Try to, even if it's a super simple answer.
Yeah.
So someone asks, how are you?
Instead of thinking in my language, translating the question, thinking of my answer, translating that back.
Just jump to an English reply. I'm good. Great, not bad. Pretty busy.
Short and fast.
Yes. Or, how was your weekend? Don't translate your whole weekend story. Just, it was good, relaxing, busy but fun.
Even if it feels too simple.
The speed is the key here. It breaks the translation habit for those common phrases, makes you sound much more natural in conversation.
Builds that reflex.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Training your brain to access those ready-made English chunks automatically. It might feel a bit exposed at first, not having time to carefully craft the perfect answer.
Yeah, I can see that.
But it's a really crucial step for sounding more conversational.
Okay. Technique number 5 takes this internal practice even further. Using English for, like, mental tasks, planning.
Right. So consciously switch your internal monologue for those everyday mental jobs, making a mental shopping list. Try thinking buy milk, get eggs, need in English.
Not in your native language first.
Try not to. Or planning your day. Think, wake up at 7, have breakfast, meeting at 10, call David.
It's about making English the default language for your internal world, too, not just when you have to speak to someone else.
Precisely. The more you use English for these background mental tasks, the more it just becomes your brain's go-to language, less reliance on translation over time.
So if I need to remember something, make the mental note in English, like remember keys.
Perfect. Or even thinking through a simple problem. Okay, first I need to do X, then Y. Try doing that internal reasoning in English.
Or maybe mentally rehearsing a quick chat you need to have later.
Absolutely. Or even just, reflecting on your day for a minute or two in English. Today was okay, that meeting was long, looking forward to dinner.
Okay, so those are all great techniques for training our brains. But you mentioned something else interesting from the sources. Looking at how native speakers themselves think and talk.
Yes, that's a really insightful angle. Because fluency isn't just about vocabulary and grammar, right? It's also about understanding the natural rhythm, the flow, the way ideas are typically structured in English. Native speakers often organize thoughts in specific ways.
Right. And one key thing was about sentence length. That native speakers tend to use shorter, more direct sentences in conversation.
Exactly. They don't usually make these really long, complex, winding statements. Well, not typically in everyday chat. They break ideas down.
Into smaller chunks, more digestible.
Yeah. Think about that example given. Instead of something very formal like, if it's not too much trouble, would you be able to assist me with this particular task?
Which sounds a bit stiff, maybe.
A bit. A native speaker is much more likely to say something direct, like, can you help me with this?
Or even just, hey, need some help with this.
Right. Same meaning, but much more concise. Direct.
So getting straight to the point. Fewer unnecessary words.
Pretty much. So when you're practicing thinking in English, try to copy that a bit. Keep your internal sentences relatively short and focused.
Instead of one long thought, maybe break it into 2 or 3 shorter ones in your head.
Good idea. And another thing was about replies in conversation. We touched on how are you, but it's broader than that. Native speakers often use really short, natural replies.
Right, like if someone asks, did you have a good weekend?
They might just say, yeah, great, or pretty good, not bad. They don't always launch into a full narrative unless asked for more detail.
It's about being efficient, sounds like.
Yeah.
And just natural sounding.
Exactly. You don't always need a full sentence.
Yeah.
So practicing those common short responses makes your own English sound much more conversational. Quick reactions again.
Okay, practice the short answers. Got it?
And then there are filler words, the ums and uhs, but also things like, well, like actually, I mean.
Yes.
You know,
Sometimes people worry about using those too much.
they can be overused, definitely, but they actually serve a purpose in natural speech.
Oh, so.
Well, they give you a tiny pause, thinking time, without just going silent, which can feel awkward.
Right. Like instead of blurting out, I disagree, you might say.
Well, I'm not sure I see it that way. Or actually, I was thinking, it softens things a bit, makes it sound less abrupt.
Okay. Adds to the flow.
Yeah, it contributes to the rhythm, but again, moderation is key. Too many likes or you-knows can sound hesitant or, frankly, annoying.
So use them sparingly, but don't be afraid of them entirely.
Pretty much. They can make you sound less robotic. So instead of a flat, I don't know, maybe, I'm not really sure. Or, well, I'd have to check that.
Okay. So, thinking like a native speaker involves short sentences, quick, natural replies, and maybe using fillers appropriately.
That's a good summary. Aim for clarity, directness, but also that natural conversational flow.
And it's okay to make mistakes. That came up too.
Absolutely crucial. Fluency isn't about perfection. It's about communication, naturalness, getting your ideas across. Practice is the key, and mistakes are just part of learning. The more you practice thinking this way, the more automatic it becomes.
All right, so we've got the why and a how, a bunch of techniques. Now it's time to actually do something. We've got a challenge for you listeners.
Yes, to really kickstart this thinking in English habit, for the next hour, starting now if you can, really focus on that mental naming exercise. Look around wherever you are. Silently name everything you see in English.
And really try not to translate first, just object English word.
Exactly. Direct connection.
And if you're feeling ambitious, take it up a notch.
Yeah, try describing simple actions you're doing in your head. Basic English sentences.
I am sitting down, I am looking at my phone, I am listening, that kind of
And
thing.
keep it simple. Focus on the action. Try to keep that mental English commentary going for as much of the hour as you can manage.
And we genuinely love to hear how it goes.
Definitely. Find the comments section or wherever you interact with us and just share one thing you described in English and maybe how it felt. Was it easy? A bit tricky? What did you notice?
Yeah, your feedback really helps us, and it helps everyone else listening too. And hey, if you found this deep dive useful,
Please do subscribe or follow.
and share it with anyone else you know who's working on their English speaking.
And join us next time because we're going to be revealing a pretty fascinating secret technique to learn English vocabulary much faster.
Ooh, intriguing. You won't want to miss that.
Definitely not.
Okay, that brings us pretty much to the end of today's deep dive. Keep practicing these techniques. Really try to make that conscious effort.
Think in English.
Think in English.
And maybe consider this as you go about the rest of your day. Even those tiny moments, brushing your teeth, waiting for the bus. How might consciously applying just one of these things, naming an object, thinking I am walking, how might that subtly start to shift your default thinking patterns? Even just a little bit. Something to ponder.